Hi, everyone, and welcome to another session of Office Hours live with me, Rahul, and our success engineer, Amit, for the 24th of May, 2022. Um okay, so we have George here. Hey, George, good to
Hey
see you.
George.
Uh, Sorry about posting the information link right about now, so I'm not expecting a lot of people to join us, but whoever is here, you're welcome to ask questions in the Ask for Questions section. And while there's no one around, we have some things prepared to show live for you guys today. So I will start by sharing my screen and I'll show you how we would do a post request with forms in a Draftbit Live app because some of the users are starting doing that. So I thought it'd be easy to have a video for doing these stuff. And then Amit has also prepared something to showcase as well. Do you want to describe that, Amit?
Oh, yesterday there was a post in community regarding changing fonts for the header. So there is a way to do it using some bit of custom code. So there's one thing, and one more thing that I'll try to build a load more feature, which is again a requested feature, right?
Oh,
This was posted today. Uh, did I break
that
up?
no, no, that's awesome, man. I thought
Oh
you
yeah,
uh, we haven't had anything prepared for it, so it'll be all live, guys. So bear with
yeah.
us if we run into issues, but we'll try to solve them live here. So do you want to start, Amit, or should I start?
Uh, I think you should start.
Sure. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and then we will build a very simple form, do a post request, and kind of go over React query features as well with you. So sharing my screen. Uh, Hopefully my screen is visible to everyone.
Yeah, it is. If you can zoom in a bit, that would help.
Definitely. So zoomed in. Maybe should I switch my screens? I think that would be a better idea. I'm gonna
Let's
switch it
try
to
that.
yeah, I'm gonna switch it to my other monitor so it's a good resolution for everyone. Is that better?
Yeah, it is.
Perfect. So let's get started. As you can see, it's a blank app. So first we will connect to a backend, and I'm going to be using a third-party backend that one of our Draftbit colleagues has made, Intrim. So thank you, Dave. Um, so let's get started. First things first, we will create a service. I can just call it a demo service, and then put in my base URL here. So every backend usually has a base URL, so that's what goes here. And I can save it. And then I would create two endpoints, one to see my messages and the other one to add a message. Uh, so let's create a get endpoint. I'll just call it post. It's get endpoint, and we're also going to use React Query here. And I was thinking and hoping that I would be able to describe the functionality of React Query a little bit more to our users and don't confuse them. So
Hmm.
React Query, we use it so that we try to keep the data that you're showing on your screens fresh. Fresh as in like we React Query under the hood, what it does, it keeps track of what data is being displayed on the screen, and if there's any more data added through the app to your backend, it keeps track of it and then automatically refetches the data, knowing that there was something more added to the app, and it will display that on your screen as well. So that's where React Query is handy. And the first step in setting up React Query is we need to select roles. I think the roles are quite descriptive by themselves. So it's get one, get many. So get one is like if you're specifically fetching just one record, or if you're fetching a list of records, which is usually the case as well most of the times, we use the get many role. And then we have object types. Object types is just basically our way of making sure um React Query knows which types of object it's going to be fetching from the backend. So for instance, I can call my object type post here. And one thing to note here is that uh, the object type needs to be the same for all the endpoints associated with that specific uh, object. I probably jumbled that one up pretty badly, and I'll try to explain again. So
Yeah.
if I have a list of posts and the object type is posts, then I would have another endpoint for creating a post. Both these endpoints should share the same object type post. So that way React Query knows that the list that I'm displaying from the object type of post, a new entry was made to that object type when we did a create request as well. And let me know if that makes sense or if I have to add
Yeah,
more
it does make
clarifications
sense. So
there.
that basically does help us, right, to display the updated record immediately, just because they are
Exactly.
related object types.
Exactly. So basically, you have to share the same object type if you need to make sure that React Query fetches the data back from your backend when you do a create call or a delete or an update call as well. So hopefully that made sense. And let's keep it moving. So I just need to give the path, which is just posts, and then headers. I don't really need them. I can just test it. And right now I just had test values here, and you can see we are getting those values back. So we are good to go here. So we have created a post endpoint, and then now we want to create an endpoint for creating a post. So I would call that create post or a post. And you can see whenever we do a method of post, it automatically selects the role as create. And now I want to add the same object type here. So when we create a new post, our other endpoint would automatically refetch the data back. And we just add a path, which would be post again. And since this is a post endpoint, we are sending data back to the server. So we need to define a body structure here. So our body structure here would be basically I have three items, a name, a message, and a special. Special is basically a boolean which just says that, hey, this is a special post or it's not a special post. So I would do name. So if you write a hard-coded value here, for instance, if I say Rahul, then it will always post this name here. But we don't really want to do that, right? We want to have a variable here so we can map it to a text input field. In order to do that, what we can do is use our handlebar notation, which basically tells us that you want to map this to a variable. And you can see there's an input field here for a variable. So it's name, and we have message, again, I want to map it to a variable, call it message. And the third field would be special. And then I would map it to another variable, call it special again. So we got our body structure in place, and now I just need to give some test values here. So let's call this live test. Message would be, hey everyone. And special, obviously it's special, so we're just going to say it's true. So let's test it. There we go. So since it was a proper request, we got a response back from the server, which was the post that that we just created. So we got an
Yes.
ID back, which is auto incremented, so we don't have to send it back, and the name and the message as well. So I can go ahead and save this endpoint. So now we have created two endpoints. One is to create a post, and the other one is to get post. Any questions so far, Amit, or anything that you want to add?
There had been some confusion regarding the test values, right, that we provide. while making an endpoint. Some users were
Okay.
confused with those values, if you remember,
Okay.
especially with the parameters that we're passing in the get endpoint. So some people that do get confused. Yeah, we it works in the preview in the builder, but
Uh-huh.
they are not actually providing the values at that time, the correct values. So sometimes the users do get confused with that. So it's just a test value that we are passing over here, and this is not the actual value that we are going to be using inside our builder. We need to supply a parameter for that, right?
Uh, Correct. So basically, what I think Amit you're saying is that hey, whenever we are doing a test here, those test values are actually just for the testing part of it. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So the endpoints are created. Now just let's create two really quick screens. One would be to display the post, and the other ones would be to creating a post, right? So I'll just make sure that my database is clear. So I'm just going to remove all the data that was added before. And now I'm just going to do the screens very quickly. So I'll call this one create posts. And all I need on this screen is basically three inputs, two text inputs and a checkbox for doing the true and false values. So let's add those. So I'll add a text input field and another one and another one. Maybe a good idea would have been to put them in a view, but it's fine for now. Uh, okay, we just needed two, and then we needed a checkbox. We can add a checkbox component here. And then a button that will make the post call. Or I can add a button. Maybe just a button solid. Uh, okay. So now if I go select this text input field and go here, you can see that this text input field is mapped to a variable called text input value, and those variables are right here. So you can see that each text input field has an associated variable attached to it. That's basically where the values of those variables are stored, and these are all Spring variables.
Are
So we
these
have
created automatically, Rahul, as soon as we put
yes,
the element on the screen?
that's correct. So as soon as you put a text input field, it will create a text input value. And if you add another one, it will create a text input value too. We have this extra one here because I added another text input field before and I removed it. So we still have that value here. And there's a value for checkbox value as well, which is a Boolean. And these are all mapped to their specific values. So the second text input is mapped to text input value 2. And then you can see the checkbox would also be mapped to the checkbox value. And let me quickly change the name of the button here to submit.
It's pretty neat how we actually automatically create the screen variables and attach them, right? Do we associate any action with these also while creating the element?
Good question, Amit. Yes, we do. So if you create a text input field, we have an action attached to it, which is called the on change text. So every time you click a key and the text gets changed inside the text input box, uh, we automatically update the variable with that value. So that's how we keep these values stored in the screen variable.
Oh, that's great. And it's all automatically set up. We do not have to do a thing while placing an input, right? Input field.
Correct. This is all automatically done and taken care by us. So again, very basic screen. We have a form with three input values, and then oops, So there's a form with 3 input values, 2 text input fields, and a checkbox, and a submit button. And the screen is just called create post. We'll also do a screen for showing the post as well. So I can do this. We will add a fetch component here to make our fetch call, and then we'll do a list component to iterate over the data. And I want to show the name, the message, and the checkbox field as well. So I can add those 3 values here. So I'll add text for showing the name and the message, and then a checkbox maybe to show the special value. So let's configure these. So we'll select a service, we call it demo service, and list to iterate over the data. So whatever we are fetching from our backend, we refer to that as a top level response. So I can select that here on our list, and then the text input fields would basically be mapped to a variable. So whenever we are mapping to a variable, we use this notation, and as soon as we do this, you'll see a drop down menu appear where we would just select the name. Oh, okay, I know what's happening here because we are receiving no data back from the server because I deleted everything. So let me just change that and add a text value here. Create a post, let it just be the same body, and then we'll do a test. Got the data back, and we can go back to
Do we need to update our schema as well, Rahul?
so the schema, so as soon as I did the fetch value, we generated, whenever we do a test in the REST API model, which I just did right now, this is when we generate a schema. So when we generate the schema, we kind of map whatever values that you're getting back from your backend so that we are able to show them in the drop-down menus that I'll show you again in just a moment. So here in text, now, let me just do a refresh here.
So in short, if we make any change to our values inside the database, we need to do a refresh, right, of the schema,
Correct. So whenever,
so that the new
mhm,
values are available to us in the dropdown.
correct. Just put it back in here again, and hopefully we should things back in these drop downs. There we go. So you got name,
Yes.
and then do another mapping here saying message, and then we will select the message field. For the checkbox, we can map it to special. It's apparently a number. Okay. So we have our list of posts. Let me change the name and create a post screen mapped. Let's go to create a post screen. And now let's test this out. Just give me a moment. I'm opening my backend here as well, just to make sure everything is visible. Okay, so let's go. Oh, one thing I missed out here is doing the post request. So we'll go to our button and then select an action, which would be an API request. This API request would be to our demo service, and the endpoint would be create a post endpoint. And as soon as I select that, you notice we have this configuration tab up here in which we want to uh, map it to our text variables, right? So the name is text input value 1 or just text input value, and the message would be text input value 2, and special would be the checkbox value. So that's how you map these values to send this data back to your server. And you can also kind of add a result name here. This is just a debugging step in which I want to do a console log for whatever response that we get back from the server.
Mhm.
Yes, and then log to console. I just want to log my action result and then transform it with JSON stringify because we're getting an object back. All right, so we are now all set up, and let's try and do it. So we'll enter a value. Let's call it Draftbit demo, and the message would be, "Games are fun when you do them live." And obviously this is a special post, so I'll mark this as a checkbox, and then let's submit it. So once we did a submit, you can see we got a console log back here, which is what we wanted. Another good thing to do here would be clearing these text inputs after you do a submit request. So we can add those actions here as well. For that, we would do set a variable. We will select text input value, and the new value will be just empty quotes. And then we would have to do that 2 more times for clearing the other 2 input fields as well. So we'll do set variable, text input value 2, set it back to this, and 1 more value here, the checkbox value, and we will give it maybe a false. That would show like an empty state. Just moving them above the console log, and let's give it another try. I'll clear this console here as well. I'll call it another post, more fun. And this one I'll just leave it empty. So now when I do submit,
Yeah.
you can see the text input values got cleared as well. So it's a good use case. Now let's go to our list of posts. So now you can see our post here as well. So we have a live test. The message is, "Hey everyone, Draftbit demo," and then you can see the one that we didn't mark as special has an empty checkbox field here. Does that make sense to you, Amit?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Cool.
And should we move this on the create post itself below the submit button to give it a more the live changes that we see?
Right. Oh, that's a good point. Let's do that. And one easy way to do this is I can save this as a custom block.
Let's duplicate it.
I will call it fetch block and save it here. And then I can go to my create post screen and add this save block from there. So let's see. Now if I add another name here, say another test, and a value of hey, and let's make this one special, and let's do a submit. So actually, thank you for suggesting that, Ahmed. This is basically where you can see how React Query is working under the hood, right? Because my create a post here and my post endpoint, which is a get endpoint, which shows the list of posts, are sharing the same object role. So because of that, whenever I create a post, React Query understands that, hey, there's something new added to the list. Let me refetch that. So all the data that is displayed on your screen is live data. So whenever you have this use case, we suggest using React Query rather than using. There's another way of doing this would be if we are not using React Query, we can use the refetch action here as well. And since we are doing this, let me try that out too and see if that works. So in this case, what we would probably want to do is on the submit button, I want to add another action, which is refetch. So I can add this here, add a refetch data. My endpoint would be post. And so every time now, whenever I'm going to submit, it's going to refetch the data again.
Should we remove it from the same object type to test it out first?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's try that. So this time I want to change the object type for post to no post, just a different, just a different object name,
Yeah.
and then test it again. This is all good, and we can save it. So now they're not sharing the same object role. I think a good use case would be removing this first and then showing you what happens. So if I add another value here, so this time I can say no, this is the name, so I can just say Draftbit, no object roles, right? And do this and submit. You can see the post was made, and I can show that to you by just going back and forth. It's going to refresh the beta, and you can see the no object roles come up there, but it didn't show up live right after I hit the submit button because these endpoints were no longer linked. So whenever you want to do the use case that we're doing, wherever you want to create a new post and show that right away on the screen, you would use React Query. And let's see if we can do the refetch action here now. So if I add refetch, I can select my endpoint as post, and let's add another value here. Let's call it another value, demo. Let's make this one special too. Hit submit. Looks like something happened. It didn't really get the data back. Oh, refetch post is not defined. Okay, let's refresh it once. And try it again. Okay, let's try it again. So something different, a new post. Okay, so the reason this is not working is these are not in the same object types, right? Because it says right here that refresh post is not defined. Just quickly look at the code.
We've got Dave online as well.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Is it because the endpoint is post, right?
Uh,
Has-
the refetch has to be triggered from within the fetch, right?
Oh, yes. You're right, Amit. So that's probably the reason why it's not doing it, because it's not under this fetch. So if I do something like this and try it again and see what happens. So let me kind of clear all of this data again just to make it look better. So now if I go back here and come back here, you should see an empty screen. Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's enter a value, say Dave. Hey everyone. And obviously let's make it special. And then just clear this and hit submit. There you go. So now the refetch action is working. And thank you for the suggestion, Amit. So basically, whenever you are doing a refetch action, that action needs to be under the fetch component that you're using uh, the refetch on. So in this fetch, we are fetching post, and this button is basically refetching that post too. So if I remove this button from outside the fetch, it won't work. Let's try it again. So now this button is not under fetch, and then we will do Amit. Nice idea. And then, excuse me, and then do submit, and you can see I get the error again. So whenever you're doing a refetch action, make sure it's under the fetch component, which is now, and live demo. I think this should make sense to everyone now. And special. So we hit submit, and you can see that we
Yep.
were able to refetch the data without the use of React query. So this is basically adding an extra step of refetching the data with the refetch action. I would still suggest using React query. That would be an easier option and saves you the time of adding this refetch data as well. Avoids the complication of adding a button under the fetch component. So I hope this would be useful for our users who are doing who are using React query. And I'll just very quickly, Ahmed, before you start your demo, uh,
Mhm.
go over this one more time to summarize it. So what we were doing was basically posting data to our backend using React query. Uh, the way we send data back to the server is using a post endpoint. Whenever you select a post endpoint, we automatically pre-fill this with a create role, which basically means that you're creating a new post or creating something new. There are other roles as well, like update. So there are certain situations in which you want to update the data. You can use the update attribute. Sorry, I think there's a. Oh, is that a
Oh,
plane?
oh, I think somehow my noise cancellation has been working
Oh,
with
cool.
Crowdcast.
That was cool. So a plane just landed. So yeah,
Sorry, guys.
so that's cool, Ahmed. Uh, So basically, yeah. So when doing a post request, we want to send a body. It's a JSON body. So the structure is kind of like this. So you have send an object back with key value pairs. So our keys are the name of the field. So this is important. This has to be the same as what it is in your backend. So for instance, if you have a first name field and you're just entering name here, then it will probably result in an error. And I don't know why, but I want to try that too. So I'm just going to change the name here and test that. And you can see the name value got a null field because the data we were sending did not actually match our backend. So make sure that the names of these fields are exactly how you have to find them in your database.
So it
And
took a null value just because it was not required in the backend, and if it would have been required, we would have gotten an error, right?
that's right, Amit. That's right. Basically, if you're not sending anything back and if it's not a required field, it will still accept the post, but it will obviously enter a null value where the field that you're missing. And then that's basically it. So whenever we do a test, we get a response back of the newly created post. And that's basically it from my side. Uh, I hope this would be helpful for our users. And I can go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
We've got a couple of comments. Ooh. First is what's interim? That's from Draftbit team. Rahul, did you post that?
Uh,
Oh, that first day.
so, so right, Dave. So interim. Do you want to go over it just a moment? So Dave, interim is no, interim is something wonderful. Interim is a backend that one of our Draftbit team members just created. It's a wonderful backend, and it has all the features that you require from a backend. So great job there, Dave. Um, I don't know what more to say about it. Exactly. It is like example data, but it's better because it lets you customize the data that you want to put in. It comes in. Oh, I'm not sure if I'm be able to show it. Let me see.
It would be great if you could show it.
Yeah, it's just open in a separate browser. So let me just log in and share my screen again. Let's just share this window. So here is interim. It's another backend that you guys can use in your Draftbit apps. What it does is, again, it's a very clean and wonderful interface. You can add endpoints. You can create a
Dave has
totally
clarified fake backend.
right. It's a very clean and fake backend that you guys can use in your app, and for me, it looks like it works just as well as a real backend. So you can quickly create a model here. You can call it um, example. Then, if you want to give a description, you can give a description post, and then there's icons. Oh, you can change these icons, which is pretty cool.
Ooh.
And then basically add your field names. So ID is auto created. Then I can do add attributes, which would be name, and then I can select a type. I call it a word or a sentence, and then just add that
Okay.
and ID. And basically, you can add a whole bunch of fields here. So there's booleans, there's digits, floats, letters, words,
Can
paragraph.
we like do we have to give values, or can we auto populate these fields as well? Like if we want to have some data in it.
hmm Great question. And we certainly can. So once
Oh,
I
that's
create
amazing.
this, oh, I need to give it a name. So I will just say example and create it. Success. Let's view this endpoint. So now we have this endpoint, and you can see it already creates the most common use cases of all the endpoints, right? So we have a get
All right.
endpoint, which will get the list of example, whatever is an example, a specific field. So if you want to just select one post, you can do
Mhm.
that. Post is basically to post to this database, and put and delete are basically self-explanatory as well. So now I can go here, and you can see the data is already pre-populated here, right? And then
Oh,
something that
that's
I
neat.
find, yeah, something that I find really cool is you can just remove this data and regenerate the data. So, whatever you like to do, it does that automatically. Obviously, it's not a very good example because I just have this one field, but it will
Uh-huh.
pre-populate all the fields as well. And the ID is basically auto-generated, so you can see that it's incrementing one by one every time you add a record.
So Dave says it's a lot better now. We are looking at the beta here. Sign up
Oh,
free at interimapi.com.
oh, thank you, Dave. That's what I was a little bit slightly confused about. If it's like still in beta or is it like out for everyone? So yeah, feel free to go ahead and sign up for Interim, and you can see how easily you can bring that data from Interim to Draftbit. So go ahead and give it a try.
And in interim, can we even do limits and pagination and everything?
Yes, definitely you can. There we go. Dave answered that. So yes, you
Oh,
can have query parameters. You can do pagination. You can do a full rest and query params as well.
can we set it up right now? Then we can use it for our load more if needed.
Oh, let's give it a try. Uh, okay, let's go back to sharing the screen again. And
It's so cool, right? With just a few clicks of buttons, we already have a fake backend that we can use to test.
definitely. So basically, what you want is a query. Oh, there you go. Limit query paginate. So what you want to do, Amit?
Uh, Paginate.
Paginate. Let's do that. So, oh, cool. So we basically can do this right away.
Uh-huh.
And let's try this.
It's paginate 20, page 2.
So we'll go back to, Amit, can you see my builder now on the
Oh, yes,
screen?
I can.
Okay, cool. So in post here, all I need to do is this. And let's just do 10, and let it be on page 2 and test this out. Boom. So we are on page 2, the first page URL, last page is 1, last page URL. Oh, that's pretty cool. And then there you go. So you got links, which is previous. Oh, per page 10,
Okay.
double 4. That's cool. Should I do page 1?
Yeah, let's try to do that.
There we go. So page 1, we had data. Oh, I see. So what's happening here, and sorry for confusing everyone, this is actually getting the data from my posts
Oh, this
API.
is the base URL is wrong, right? Yeah. Let's just change
Correct.
it.
Wait, let me just regenerate data here. So you'll have a whole bunch of data that we can get back, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And, or, yeah, you're right, because we want to show them how you get the base URL for this. So the base URL is right here. I can copy that. and then my path was example, so I need to change that too. Let me go
We
back.
can create a new.
Yep,
Yep. Let's create a new service.
yep, and we will call it interim, and then I
Or
have to
should I do
base.
it on my end? If you can paste it, then
Uh,
that will lead
yeah,
into the load more thing.
correct. So what I can do for you, Amit, is
Uh,
I will let you share the screen and I'll share the URL for the same app, or do you want to create a new one?
uh,
Let's just create a new app and
yeah,
start from
that
scratch.
makes more sense. Yeah.
And just gonna
Sorry
message.
if you guys can hear some wildlife from here because, yeah, apparently noise cancellation doesn't work.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, so how do I do it? The first time. Okay, share screen.
Dave is asking what kind of wildlife do you have around you, Amit?
Just some critters.
Oh, cool.
Is the screen visible?
Yes, it is. Your entire Chrome window is visible.
All right. Let me just create a new app.
It's cool. We're gonna test load more on the fly, guys.
Yeah, I hope this works. Load more. Let me see. Did I share my entire screen? Just a moment, guys. Screen window. All right. Is my screen visible now, Rahul?
Yes, it is.
Uh, it's going to be a REST API service. Oops.
Hmm.
First time jitters.
That's cool. You're doing good. Dave says the same thing.
Data. Uh, me. It's paginate equals 20
Um,
and page equals 1, right?
that's correct.
I'm doing something wrong, obviously.
Can you
Do we have
go?
a question mark as a query parameter?
Yes. So you would also want to do the path there. So I think the path is example.
Oh,
Uh,
I did miss that, right?
yeah. So it's
Thank you
gonna
for
be
pointing that out.
a example with a small e, right?
Yeah. Is that directly a query parameter after that, or we have a slash?
Directly a query parameter after that.
Okay. And it's still not sure. It doesn't show up for me somehow.
Can
So
you go
paginate
to
equals 20.
Can you go to your endpoint basics?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'll do
The
that.
first one, right? So either remove the
So we
get
do not
method
have a
or
role here.
yeah, or add an object type.
Okay, we do have it. All right,
Go.
let's do it. Page is, let me uh, keep this as a parameter so that
Mhm.
we can use it later. Okay, so we are getting ID and name.
Cool.
Okay, so let me just add a fetch here. Just set it up. Cool. And what we'll need to do is we'll need to change the page numbers, and we'll need to do that on the click of a load more button.
Okay.
And just to have our data display uh, within our screen
Hmm.
and not to refresh the screen itself, what we need to do is we need to use a screen parameter.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll use a screen parameter to display the data.
Oh, cool.
And the data that we're getting is going to be an object array, right?
Correct.
Let's just give this. Uh, we won't get the schema. Do you remember the schema, Rahul? Let's just give it
Uh,
the schema, an example
yes.
schema for this.
Yes. So the
That's
schema is
it's
basically ID and just name.
that's it, right? So
Yep.
ID is an integer and name, which is going to be anything for the time being. So anything. So what this will do is this will give us a schema for our
Okay.
dropdown.
Gotcha. So basically
So
now
let's just
these
do that.
fields
So
will.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm removing this from under the fetch because I don't want the fetch data to be displayed under the list. But what I'll
Okay.
do is when I'm getting the data,
Hmm.
I'll do an on data and I'll set the variable that we just declared. So what I'll do is I'll set my display data
Hmm.
with the data that we're getting back. The top level response contains everything, right? It has
Right.
the first page information, the last page, current page, and everything, and we just need the data from it. So we're taking the data and storing it inside our display data.
Cool.
So now let's just display the text. Oh, let's just display a name here. Another mistake from my end. Sorry, guys. I did not give this a data source.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
And there we
here we
go.
go.
So that's
We
why
have,
we kind of define the schema, right? So that we can get the name and
yes,
the ID in the dropdown. Cool.
exactly. So as you can see, we're getting both ID and the name, which is coming in from our database. Just because we provided an initial schema to it, we are
Hmm.
getting them as a suggestion inside our dropdown for the list item.
Cool.
And this is something really cool that our engineering team has come up with. And what we need to do is we need to update our page number, right?
Hmm.
So this is going to be our load more button. And what we'll do is we would need another screen variable that's going to uh, represent our page number. Let's just do that.
Okay.
It's going to be an integer, a number type, and the initial value is going to be 1.
Makes sense.
And when we click load more, what it needs to do is, oh, where did my button go?
Is it under list by any chance? Because list might be taking the
Let's
entire screen, right?
let's just see. I may have bungled it up somehow.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it did show up. I'm making rookie mistakes today. Apparently, I'm nervous.
Well, you don't have to be nervous because you're doing a fantastic job.
Ah, Let's see. So what we need to do is we need to increase the value for page. So it's going to
Mhm.
be
Page
page,
again.
and we are going to do
Increment.
increment on s. We are going to use the transform function of increment. So this is going to take the original page value, increment it by one, and store that new value inside our screen variable. So as soon as we click it, what's going to happen is, oh, I think the button went again
It's just
inside.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's just that the list will take up the entire screen, so you can just put it
yeah,
on top of list, or
yeah.
you
That's
can
what I'm
remove
doing
the
now.
flex.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Thank you for that. All right, so this is done. You got this now. So as you can see, when we do this now, what's going to happen is it's going to fetch the page two data and it's going to replace this. But what we need to do is we need to append the data, right? Let's just
Mhm.
test this out first and
Okay.
see what happens. Theoretically, that's what is supposed to happen. Oh, did we change our fetch value here? Oh no, let's just link
All
it to
right.
our screen variable now. Yeah, now this should make it work. If we click load more, it's as you can see, it changes the values, right? Now we are
Yes,
on
it
page
does.
3. And what we need to do is we need to append these values underneath the existing values that we have. So what we need to do is we need to take our values that we already have inside our display data and
Hmm.
take the new values that we're getting and just keep appending it to the end of it. So now what we need to do is we need to use low code for this. So we need to add a small custom function. So let's call it append data. What this is going to do is it's going to take the incoming data that we're getting from our fetch call. And what we need to do is we need to use the existing data that we have. So display data is the data that we are already having
Hmm.
inside our screen variable. So if it's empty initially, it's going to be empty. Uh, so we are
Gotcha.
just going to use the existing data that we are getting and going to spread it inside our new array. So this is a new array. And this is going to be our display data, the existing data. We are using the spread operator, the JavaScript spread operator, and we are spreading the values inside a new array. And this is the incoming data that we're getting from our API call. And we are using that. It's an array as well. So we are using the spread operator again and appending that at the end of our new array. And we are going to return this value, and then we are going to save this value inside our existing display data. It might sound confusing right now, but it's going to make some sense. Let me just go to, yeah, my fetch call. When we are getting this data, we need to run a custom function at first. We need to use the append data function, and we are going to save this in, in a temporary variable called the new display data.
Okay.
And we are going to supply the incoming data from our fetch, the object array, and we're going to supply that to our custom function. Now, let's just change this one because this is actually just using the data and storing it inside our display data. So let's just change this to use our action result instead. So this is what happens now. It's taking our new display data and appending it, taking the new data incoming from the fetch call and appending it to our existing data. And this should work now. Let's just test this out. Here you go.
Cool.
So the existing data is on top. The new data gets added to the bottom. So this is the load
Awesome.
more button, guys.
That's great, Amit. And yeah, it's a pretty useful, flow that you just described here live. So amazing job. Um, if anyone
Thank
has
you.
any questions about this, please feel free to ask them in the Ask for Questions section. We would love to answer those for you. And um, anything
What
that
I'm
you want
doing
to
is,
go, Amit?
yeah, I'm just keeping this on screen. If anyone wants to take a screenshot, or it's just a simple single line of code. I'll just keep this here for a couple of seconds and just go over the entire flow again. All right.
Really cool.
So, in summary, what we need is we have the paginated data that's incoming from our backend. We need a fetch call, which is going to use a parameterized page data, and it's going to make new calls. And whenever the page number changes, it's going to make a new call and get some data from the backend. And what we're going to do is we are going to use another screen variable called display data to actually display our list. So our list is being displayed using the screen variable itself. Now, in order to use the load more function, what we're going to do is we are going to append the incoming data inside our existing display data variable. So as soon as we receive data, we use the on data trigger and we run a custom function. All the custom function does is it takes the existing data and appends the new incoming data to it and returns it to a function. So what we're doing now is we are storing it in temporary variable, and after that we are just setting our new variable, uh, setting our display data variable with the new data, and that's it. And on click of a button, the only thing that we're doing is we are incrementing the integer value of the page, and that's it. That's the simple load more low code function.
That's awesome, Amit. And we have just crossed an hour mark here. And
Okay,
do you have? Do you want to quickly do the
the
header?
custom header part.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. So yesterday we had a question from Abdullah, one of our users, regarding changing the font inside a header. So it's not possible using the builder at the moment, but if we use some custom functions, custom code, we would be able to do it. So here it is. What I'm doing over here is I'm using custom code to target my header. And currently, if we go to our navigate thing, what we have is only the default fonts, right?
Hmm.
And Abdullah is using Nunito font throughout his application, and he wants to use that in the header as well. So I had shared some resource with him regarding customizing our headers,
Okay.
and this is basically how we would do it using custom code. So let me just remove this. This is just adding a button to this is header left, right? So header left is basically going to target the left section. Header title is another property that targets the header, and header right is another property which is going to target the right section of the header. So Abdullah basically wants to style the header title, right? So let's
Hmm.
just use this one. So we are using a custom component and passing the navigation parameter to it. And this is the React use layout effect. So this is what's going to help us uh, like target our header when the screen loads. So whenever our screen loads, what we're going to do is we are going to set the options for the header. So using the navigation.set options, we can specifically target the header title style. So this is header title style that we're using, and we are using this to style our header itself. If we want to change the entire header component, the header title component, there's a separate method for that, like separate parameter. But
Mhm.
this one is just going to target the style itself, and it's not going to change anything else. So header title style, and then using font size 24, this is going to change the font size of the header title, font family. So currently I'm using Poppins. If I change this to Nunito, this is going to use the Nunito 400 regular and text align center. This is just going to align the text in the center. So this is what should basically uh, target our header. Let me
Cool.
just load the current value of. So we had Poppins earlier, so now it is Nunito. So as you can see, text here is Nunito regular. We have the same font in the header as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
And this is basically it. Custom code dot back button reset. That was the name of my component, and the only parameter that I'm passing is the navigation parameter. The navigation dot set options is the method to target uh, our screen header to be able to customize it.
Well, that's great. And for users, we will post this code as well because I'm sure like
Yes.
you might want to use it. So we'll post this code snippet as well later on.
Uh-huh. Are there any questions, Rahul? Should I stop sharing?
Um, I think we are pretty good. And the only question that I kind of had was, is it possible to do it through a custom function as well?
Oh, I've not tried that. We should be able to
Please.
do it, right?
Um, I believe so. Uh, we just need to pass the props, the navigation props, or do we? But yeah, that's something for another time, though.
Yeah,
I
we
think we
should
have
do
already
an exploration regarding that in another office hours.
Mhm. Definitely. I think we have already, as you said, passed the hour mark, and hopefully, whatever we shared today would be of some use to everyone.
That is
So
the hope.
I think we should end it today. Catch us on Thursday, where our head of product George would be doing another office hours live. And I forgot to mention what we kind of do these now is the Tuesdays office hours. We're gonna do some sort of a rotation. So one Tuesday it'll be me and Amit. The other Tuesday it would be me and Dave. And if someone else also wants to join the rotation, they're most welcome. And so you'll get to see more people from Draftbit and get unique perspectives from their end as well. So have a great day. Uh, See you, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thank you.